On this edition of The Best Times, we explore caring and caregivers and the role that two local organizations play in easing the burden on families. We'll tell you about a crisis hotline for seniors, and we'll pay tribute to a super volunteer and a super lady. Funding for The Best Times is provided by... Since 1988, the H.W. Durham Foundation has been focused on aging issues, providing grants to programs like The Best Times to enrich and improve the quality of life for our older citizens. The Best Times is the only monthly news magazine exclusively for the age 50-plus reader. Your copy is free at over 200 locations, with important stories and news you don't want to miss. The Best Times is always the best. Trezevant, a life care community, a celebration of life. The responsible decision for your well-being now and in the long term. And being responsible has never been such a hoot. TrezevantManor.org. Hello, I'm Chris Hardaway. Welcome to The Best Times, a series that looks at life after 50. Over 5 million Americans have Alzheimer's disease or some form of dementia. That's 1 out of 8 older Americans. Nearly 15 million Americans, mostly spouses and family members, are unpaid caregivers. Longer life expectancies and aging baby boomers will increase those numbers in coming years. By 2030, when all of the boomers have reached retirement age, the number of people with Alzheimer's or other dementia will double. And so will the burden on family caregivers, who already contribute over $200 billion per year in unpaid care. Tonight we profile 2 local agencies that provide safe and active environments for people with dementia and give their family caregivers the respite and support that they so dearly need. Ten years ago, Bud Phillips began to experience hallucinations that were eventually diagnosed as Lewy body dementia.
He used for a while a cane, then he went to a walker, and then to a wheelchair. He was in a wheelchair for about 3 years.
Bud's primary caregiver was his wife, Lou. As the burden of caregiving grew, Bud's doctor recommended he visit Alzheimer's Day Services.
His first initial reaction when I picked him up was, he said, "I'm not sure why I'm here. There's so many old, sick people there." And, but Bud was an easy person to deal with, and the next time that he came, he did accept it. As a matter of fact, he got to the point that he called this his other family.
Bud Phillips's family was Alzheimer's Day Services, a 30-year-old organization operating 2 centers in Memphis. Ruth Ann Shelton is the executive director.
If you're over 65, the most common form of dementia is Alzheimer's, and 1 out of 8 over 65 gets dementia. And when you take those numbers all the way out, if you're over 85, it's almost 5 out of 10.
The mission of ADS is twofold. Their first job is to provide a safe, secure, and active place for those with dementia.
People would like to stay at home or with family for as long as possible. What we are able to do is help that time with the family be extended. But we have between 20 and 25 activities a day. Now we're dealing with adults, so we don't force anybody to do anything, but we look at fine motor coordination, gross motor coordination, cognitive exercises, socialization, communication exercises, reminiscing, life tasks. What we're trying to do is see each person looking at what they can do, not what they can't do. We do a lot of participants cooking. Now, it has to be in a safe fashion, but we have set up a dining area that they can make cookies and different things like that. And I jokingly tell people that we have participants who can read the menus, the recipes. We have some who can measure, some who can beat the batter, and some who just tell us what we're doing wrong. You know, but they have a good time with it, and that's when you see the smiles, we're very tired when we go home at night, but those smiles are rewarding. They're a blessing.
Over 120,000 Tennesseans have Alzheimer's, 30,000 in Shelby County alone. It's estimated that by 2030, those numbers will double. And yet the state has only 24 licensed adult daycare centers. ADS consistently operates at 90 to 100% capacity. Some participants are Monday through Friday regulars. Some visit only once or twice a week, and a few are drop-ins. But the center's maximum capacity is only 99 adults. I asked if they felt like the little Dutch boy with his finger in the dike.
If we just looked at the big picture, I'm sure we would get very much like the Dutch boy. However, we just see each person as an individual and that we're helping that family, and we do the very best we can to help as many families as we can.
Helping families cope with the burden of caregiving is the second mission of Alzheimer's Day services.
The person with the diagnosis eventually fades away, and there comes a time when they're not aware that they're fading away. But the family sees the person that they've always been and have to adapt daily to a new loss.
She was such an outgoing person. My mom was. It's just really sad to see that person that was so vibrant and outgoing and caring for everybody around her, to just have her life taken away, so to speak, you know, and having to depend on, you know, us and their families.
Rosalind Carter once said that there are 4 types of people in the world. Those who have been caregivers, those who are caregivers, those who will be caregivers, and those who will need caregivers.
There are over 15 million unpaid caregivers in America, and over 60% of them are so overstressed that they are in danger of becoming secondary patients themselves.
A significant number die before the person they're caring for because the 24/7 care can be so wearing for the person. And we have had families who will come in and say, we've got to get our father in here because we didn't realize how bad he was, but Mom just died last week, and now we've got to find care for him.
This is an Alzheimer's support group. It's one method that ADS uses to help caregivers cope with the curveball that life has thrown at them.
Caregivers feel so unprepared dealing with somebody with Alzheimer's because it really does turn your life upside down. And often the typical way of dealing with life's challenges is atypical for dealing with somebody with dementia.
Adina Samberg identifies 3 ways that support groups provide caring to caregivers.
Sometimes people just feel so alone that they're the only person dealing with this issue in their life. And when they get together with other people with similar situations and, you know, similar problems, it's comforting. You know, I suppose misery loves company, or just to know you're not alone is comforting. When they come to support groups, it's also a chance to open up, to ventilate. It's a safe place where we laugh together, we cry, they can cry, they can just let their emotions hang loose. And then there's the practical side where people give each other helpful tips. You know, different people just have different pointers to share with each other. And to me, that's the beauty, watching them help each other. And that gives them a good feeling. I think, you know, when they can, you know, assist somebody else, that's just very supportive.
If it had not been for this place over here, I'm not sure whether I could have made it during all of those years or not.
Alzheimer's Day Services is supported by fees, grants, and public donations. Because the need is so great, they are investigating the possibility of establishing a third facility. Nationwide, there are 5,000 adult daycare centers. A study by the National Adult Day Services Association projects a need for almost twice that many in years to come. There is another organization that serves a broad range of people with disabilities, including dementia. This is James. He likes to be called Cowboy. He's 80 years old and intellectually disabled. For the last 23 years, he's been under the care of SRVS, a 50-year-old organization devoted to providing a host of services for the disabled. In 1962, a group of concerned citizens and parents established SOS, the Sheltered Occupational Shop, to provide disabled individuals with work and wages. By the early 80s, SOS had merged into SRVS, which opened a brand new learning center in 2012.
We support people with intellectual, developmental, and other disabilities, but we also provide for families who otherwise wouldn't have anywhere for their individuals to go. They would be 24/7 caregivers.
SRVS counts a population of about 800 people of all ages, participating in a menu of programs ranging from day activities at their learning center to their community living program, providing 80 residential locations for individuals with disabilities. About 25% of SRVS participants are over 65 and participate in a network of home and community-based services funded largely by Medicaid dollars and state grants.
These programs allow your family members to be able to have peace of mind, to know that you'll be taken care of, but yet I'll still be able to do the things that I need to do. And a combination of both, the staffing that we provide and the time that the family has to also provide, a combination of both makes it a full network for that person who actually has to have those services.
In the Silver Room at SRVS Learning Center, you'll find participants engaged in a unique curriculum that uses Montessori learning techniques originally developed in Italy to aid children with learning disabilities.
We've also seen that there's been about 20 years of research that have proven that the Montessori method is working beautifully with great success for adults with Alzheimer's and dementia. And so SRVS is kind of filling this interesting niche in between children with disabilities, adults with Alzheimer's and dementia. So we're the first organization of our kind to apply the method for adults with learning disabilities. You can tell that it's Montessori because everything is contained on a tray and it's self-correcting, meaning that the individual gets immediate feedback as to whether or not they've accomplished the task correctly, so that they're not dependent on a caregiver to tell them and to provide them that feedback. They're generating it on their own. What we're doing is preparing an environment that fosters independence, because they can get up and explore the environment at their own pace and according to their own interests and their own needs, which, you know, for the aging population, you know, it gives them the dignity and the respect that they deserve, while honing skills that continue to improve their concentration and their coordination and their sense of order and their independence.
The Montessori method is practiced throughout the Learning Center classes, including a percussive curriculum designed by the drummer for the Beach Boys.
It incorporates a lot of different curriculum, counting and memory recall and rhythm, to effectively get adults to engage with music, and it's been an overwhelming success.
SRVS is tracking the progress of their Montessori curriculum. The data so far is positive, with family caregivers reporting that their loved ones are becoming more engaged and more self-sufficient at home. In addition to the people served at the day center, about 200 live independently in SRVS-owned homes.
We operate 80 homes around Memphis, and most of them you wouldn't know were homes we operate because they blend into the community.
The community living program gives individuals a measure of independence while still meeting their needs with direct care staff that provide assistance with everything from dressing and feeding to transporting residents to appointments. It's estimated that between 2 and 3% of the population have intellectual and developmental disabilities. In a city the size of Memphis, that's 20 to 30,000 people. And yet SRVS can only reach 800 people, with a waiting list twice that long. As Tyler Hampton told me, there is a huge need.
Families today, with the technologies that are available, are looking for a lot more than just a safe place to leave someone. They're looking for places where the individuals in our care would be challenged. They're looking for us to provide the technologies, the smart boards, the iPads that people can use to not only stimulate their senses but also communicate.
50 years ago, before organizations like SRVS existed, people like Cowboy would have been institutionalized, locked away, and largely forgotten. Thankfully, for caregivers and participants alike, times have changed.
Facilities started to develop like SRVS that give people dignity, give them a way of life that they can thrive and that they enjoy and that they, just blossom, and that even when they reach the age that Cowboy is, that they still have dignity and a quality of life.
A 75-year-old woman living alone sees gang activity in her neighborhood, but she dares not report it. Gang members have threatened to burn her house down with her in it if she calls the police. So she locks her doors and lives in fear. That's a fictional scenario, but one that's played out in reality in scores of neighborhoods throughout the Memphis area. But there is an anonymous hotline which promises action against the criminal elements that are eroding our neighborhoods. It's called Senior Be Safe.
We want to identify and help senior citizens out there in the community who have suffered from a crime or who are frightened of a situation, either in their neighborhood or in their home, and who are afraid to report it.
Senior Be Safe is the brainchild of Buddy Chapman, former Memphis Police Director, now head of Crime Stoppers.
I went through quite an evolution trying to come up with how it could work, and quite frankly, initially thought, I'm really barking up a hollow tree here, because there are all sorts of entities and agencies out here who are doing this. It turns out for that little niche that I'm looking for, nobody's doing it. I reiterate that the crisis hotline says we get these calls and we virtually have no one to refer them to. There's no one set up to address it.
We would get calls from seniors that were in situations where they felt unsafe in their neighborhoods and they did not know where to turn. For us, one of the things that we traditionally did with those calls was we referred them to the police. But the problem with doing that kind of referral, telling them, well, here's who you need to contact, was that whole issue of trust. That is, if I call and report this to the police, and they come to my home, people are going to know that I've reported this, and is there the potential for retaliation? What might happen? And so in many ways, Buddy's idea kind of fit in really nicely with the fact that we had to develop this situation where people could trust that here's a place I can report, it'll be handled in a confidential and discreet manner.
When you call Crisis 7 with a Senior Be Safe issue, your information is transferred from the Crisis Center to the Senior Be Safe headquarters, where the appropriate actions are taken. If it involves police intervention, you remain anonymous. It's a program based on trust, and to help garner that trust, the program is turned to a unique partnership with neighborhood churches.
The partnering aspect with the faith community just causes those of us who are leaders in the faith community just kind of stand with the program and say, hey, the program is integral, the program will do what it says it will do. I know the person that is a part of that program, and they will respond the way that you want them to respond.
With the help of their church partners, Senior Be Safe is reaching out to neighborhoods across Memphis. Reverend Lee hopes it gives people the mindset that somebody's on our side.
I think that within itself and the way the program presents itself, that mindset is definitely a mindset that will cause people to want to be involved and want to see it succeed.
And if I could get everybody 60 years old and above in this city to trust the system and be involved in it, would we not have a different city than we've got now? I think we would.
Call Crisis 7 to make a Senior Be Safe report. You will remain anonymous. Two things to note: this is not an emergency number. If you have an emergency, call 911. And although it's called Senior Be Safe, the service can and should be used by citizens of all ages. I first met Jo Wood years ago when she started volunteering for WKNO's auctions and pledge drives. 3 years ago, you met her when we profiled her on this show. A few weeks ago, Jo Wood passed away. Tonight, we'd like to pay tribute to Miss Jo, as everyone called her, a super volunteer and a super lady.
I'm not a couch potato, because I try to be independent. I even still cut my own grass. I got out Tuesday and cut the front and backyards. Of course, I used a riding mower for the most of it. I have one of my grandsons that's going to get Grandma a leather jacket and a helmet. She hot rides that thing.
Jo Wood is always on the go. If you've been to the opera or the ballet, or attended a concert or a play recently, you may have met Jo. She volunteers at almost every arts venue in the area. Tonight, she's at the Orpheum, supervising the mezzanine ushers for a performance of Faust. Her love affair with this theater began when she was just a girl.
I can remember when I was 9, my mother would take me up to the Orpheum. That's when vaudeville was in style up there. First they would have the stage show, and then they'd have a movie. Well, I'd stay and watch the stage show the second time before I'd go home. That was when I was like 9 years old. So I would say, you know, with all the years that I've ushered up there and all the people that I've met and all, my heart is more so there than any other place I work.
Jo has been volunteering at the Orpheum for 29 years now. Her calendar fills up quickly with dates at GPAC, Playhouse on the Square, the Brooks Museum, Memphis in May, Theater Memphis, just to name a few. And she's been a regular volunteer here at WKNO, helping with our pledge drives and auctions. During this year's Action Auction, we surprised her with a birthday cake.
I have never eaten so much birthday cake as I have this past 3 days on the weekend. Friday at Memphis in May, Saturday at my family birthday party at my daughter's, Sunday after working at the Orpheum, then I went, of course, to Channel 10, and a great surprise, they pulled me up on camera with this big birthday cake, and everybody, even the ones on the phones taking bids, stopped and sang happy birthday to me. Can't imagine what the people at home were thinking when they say, hey, what's that woman doing up there? And they were trying to bid for a certain article. But that was so nice. It was a big shock.
In 29 years of volunteer work with various arts organizations, she's won several awards, including Volunteer of the Year for Memphis in May. But her real motivation is to help her community.
It just gives me a lot of satisfaction that I've done something to help out somewhere and maybe encourage other people, maybe my age, that do sit home. There's always some place that you can volunteer in the city of Memphis. Get out and be active. Yeah. Don't sit and just, if you sit at home, everything goes bad for you. You lose all your muscles and everything and all. And the last year when I had my checkup, my doctor says, I don't know what you're doing, but whatever it is, keep doing it. But I just enjoy staying busy. I'm just love to be out with people and doing things. And hope I can continue on until the man upstairs takes me.
Thank you for watching this edition of The Best Times, and please join us next week. But until then, visit us online at WKNO.org/besttimes, where you can watch past episodes of the show. And email us your feedback and story ideas to besttimes@WKNO.org. And while you're online, click over to Next Avenue, PBS's website, where grown-ups keep growing. Thanks for watching. I'm Chris Hardaway. Good night. Funding for The Best Times is provided by Trezevant, a life care community, a celebration of life. The responsible decision for your well-being now and in the long term. And being responsible has never been such a hoot. TrezevantManor.org. The Best Times is the only monthly news magazine exclusively for the age 50-plus reader. Your copy is free at over 200 locations, with important stories and news you don't want to miss. The Best Times is always the best. Since 1988, the H.W. Durham Foundation has been focused on aging issues, providing grants to programs like The Best Times to enrich and improve the quality of life for our older citizens.